Hi guys, I'm Captain Ez from porkchopsandwiches.net, here to bring you another Redstone tutorial. Today I've got part 4 of the series where we look at basic mechanisms that we'll use a lot in later tutorials. Now just a quick note, I am going to start to refer to a thing called a tick, which is quite important to Redstone. Now what a tick is, it's a loop of a game. Now this happens every 20 times a second, so 20th of a second. The game updates, but Redstone only updates 1/10 of a second. So you just got to be aware of that as I talk about it in the tutorial. So without further ado, let's get started. So, like I said before, these mechanisms are quite important to pretty much anything you do to Redstone, any of your Redstone contraptions. And to understand it, you need to understand the repeater. Now the repeater is, well, this is it. It has 1 tick of delay at this setting here. Now, as I said before, that is 1/10 of a second. Now it has 2 ticks, 3 ticks, and 4 ticks of delay. Now using this, we can actually make a thing called a clock, which is an infinite loop of redstone current, which would go round and round until the game ends. Now I'm just going to build a very large system and then shrink it down. So as you can see, very simple, and we just power it by a redstone torch and remove it really quickly. So this works because the redstone current is held in this block, then transferred, but always held for a little bit of delay, that 1 tick every time. So that's how it doesn't freeze up. Now if we just did this with normal redstone, it would freeze up. I'll show you just quickly. So as you can see, it just freezes up. That's because there's no delay holding the current where it is. Let's pick it all up. Now if we put a piston on this, you can see it will pump every few seconds. Now what we'll do is we'll try to shrink this down to a much simpler version. Just put this here, and there you go. That's the simpler version. Now this will keep on flickering until this torch burns out. Now the torch burns out because it's just been operating too fast. So all we have to do is slow it down a bit, and there we go. Now as you can see, what happens is this is powered up, puts the current through here, is held quickly, powers this block on, turns it off, which turns the whole circuit off, which turns this torch on, which turns it off. So it's a very simple circuit, but very compact. Now you can expand it by simply just adding more repeaters in, making sure you keep the right direction, like so. Now you can calculate how much of delay you'll have by adding it all together. Now a torch has 1 tick of delay, so that's 1 plus 2 plus 1, which is 4, 5, 6, 7. So that has 7 ticks delay. So that will just happen just under 1 time a second. So you can also do this with minecart tracks. What you do is you put 3 powered tracks down, a detector rail, and then 4 normal rails. You put a torch in the middle, wire it up to something, so we'll just use a piston, and put a minecart on and give it a push. As you can see, it will push every 2-3 seconds because of the delay that this detector rail has. However, it's a reliable system, and you can expand it to make it bigger, to make it slower, but I would suggest using this system here. Now one of the key things, the absolute key things you'll use is an inverter. Now what that does is it inverts the redstone current. Let's put a block here, get a stone button. Now you don't have to use a button, you can use a pressure plate, a bud switch, which I'll explain later, a button, a pressure plate, any input at all. So what we'll do is we'll wire up a piston, and as you can see it's already on. However, if you just put it down, it's off. Now if we press this button, it will retract instead of extend, like you would with a normal piston. Now that's because the signal gets inverted. This happens because when you press this button, the redstone current goes through this, turns this block on, turning this torch off, which we learnt in the block interactions video, turning this current off, turning this piston back in. Now that there's a glitch from the game, because I'm running it on a server, so ignore that. So I'll just do it again. Pulls in, pushes out. So an inverter is very important because I even use it in this door. I use 2 inverters that invert the current and push the doors out when I step on these pads. So I'll explain how to do this in the next tutorial. But these 2 things are the most key aspects of redstone contraptions you need to understand. So I'm Captain Ez from porkchopsandwiches.net. A little slip up there. And until next time, have a nice night.